If you're an empath, you know the sensation. You walk into a room and bam, you're inundated by everyone else's energy. Have you ever just wished you could build a barrier, be completely unshakable, and stop worrying about the censure, the refusal, or the betrayals that seem to hit you 10 times harder than anyone else? Maybe you're exhausted from trying to satisfy everybody, from upholding that strong persona when really you just crave a moment's break from the sheer stress of sensing everything constantly. Well, here is something nobody likely ever told you. So long as you try to avoid the hurt, it will control you. So long as you're desperately attempting to deaden yourself or hide, you're just a hostage to the next hurtful comment, the next disappointing deed, the next silence that eats you alive. And listen, that isn't weakness. That's the reality for many, but empaths feel it on a cellular level. Carl Jung, one of the trailblazers of depth psychology, stated, "We aren't what occurs to us. We are what we choose to become." And that is the entire key. This is not about becoming cold or indifferent. It is about integrating. It is about dragging everything that's injuring you into the shadows out into the light. Because real fortitude isn't the absence of pain. It's the full, conscious awareness of who you are, even when it's painful. If you're still watching, it's not an accident. This is for you, the person who feels like they're always at an emotional disadvantage, like everyone else has a power over you that you just cannot figure out. I am going to show you it doesn't have to be that way. But first, you must face a few truths that might sting. And just maybe, for the first time, that hurt will be the thing that sets you free. You believe the thing that injures you is out there. It's that colleague's passive-aggressive comment, it's the friend who ghosted you, it's the betrayal you never saw coming. But here is the brutal truth. None of that has any real power to harm you, not unless there's already an open wound inside you. What hurts isn't what they do. It's what their actions activate within you. It is the old trauma that never healed. It is the story you tell yourself about what it means. It is that void you have been disguising with strength. As an empath, it is like having emotional Wi-Fi with no password. Someone else's bad mood automatically connects to your old "I'm not good enough" file. Carl Jung showed us that this pain is just a reflection of what we haven't integrated internally. That is why some people can weather a storm, and others, like many empaths, crumble at a harsh tone. It is not what happens, it is where it hits. And here is the uncomfortable part. You still suffer so much because on some level, you think you can control how the world treats you. You think if you're just good enough, smart enough, or understanding enough, nobody will hurt you. But control is an illusion. And so long as you cling to it, you live in constant tension, trying to avoid the inevitable. Want to stop suffering? Stop trying to protect yourself from suffering. You don't need more control. You need more awareness. Your freedom begins the moment you realize that everything out there only has power if it finds an echo in here. And that is the real battlefield. It's the unconscious. What you don't see masters you. And that is exactly where we're going next. The biggest lie you've ever been told is that you're in control of your life. Wake up. You are not. Not so long as you're on autopilot, reacting without knowing why, feeling without understanding where it comes from. Carl Jung made it crystal clear. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And for empaths, that fate often looks like attracting the same draining people over and over. That fate is your self-sabotage. The pain, the sudden anger, the waves of sadness, none of it is random. These are messages from the parts of you that you've ignored and repressed. Carl Jung called this territory the unconscious. And it's not some vague cloud, it's an active force. It is a whole system of memories, traumas, and fears that you do not want to face, but that are still deciding how you act. You wonder why that one person's words destroy you? Because they're poking a wound that is still raw. And it is raw because you never faced it. You just pushed it under the rug. Carl Jung said we cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation doesn't liberate, it oppresses. And what have you been doing? Judging your sensitivity, calling yourself too much, silencing yourself. The truth is, the unconscious doesn't go away just because you ignore it. It just finds more dangerous ways to manifest. In those toxic relationships, in that anxiety that spikes when things seem too good. This is not bad luck. It's your unconscious trying to wake you up. So, if you want to stop being hurt, stop running from what's inside you. Because becoming untouchable is not an act of resistance. It's an act of deep self-knowledge. But what does that actually look like? Most people think the only way to not get hurt is to build walls. They put on a mask, develop emotional armor, and pretend nothing affects them. I don't care, they say. But inside, they are corroding. The problem was never feeling. The problem was not knowing what you were feeling, or why. Becoming emotionally strong has nothing to do with being cold. For an empath, trying to be cold is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It is exhausting, and it is eventually going to pop up and smack you in the face. Real strength is about integrating. It's about accepting all of it. You do not become untouchable by creating a barrier. You become untouchable when you realize no one can touch what you have already embraced within yourself. When you integrate your shadows, your fears, your insecurities, you stop reacting to everything. You start observing. You choose. You are no longer an emotional puppet. That is true freedom.
Carl Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming who you really are, not what others expect, not what you thought you should be, but what emerges from the meeting of your light and your shadow. You don't need to be a better person, you just need to be a whole person. And here is the secret. The more you run from pain, the more it chases you. But when you finally face your own wounds, nothing out there has the power to dismantle you. But this path requires courage. Courage to look in and courage to feel. Because the key to transformation is hidden right inside the pain itself. You learn to hate pain. You were taught that feeling too much makes you vulnerable. And as an empath, you feel it all, your pain and the pain of the person next to you in the checkout line. So you run, you deny, you distract, you numb yourself with busyness or by binge-watching an entire series just to shut your brain off. But ignored pain doesn't disappear, it just digs tunnels. Carl Jung saw suffering as the messenger of the soul. He said depression is like a lady in black. If she appears, don't push her away. Invite her to sit down and listen to what she has to say. But we don't listen, we numb. What is that pain trying to show you? The truth is, suffering only hurts this much because you're at war with yourself. There is a part of you crying out for transformation, but your ego, addicted to control, is trying to suffocate that call. That friction is the pain. That burnout you feel, that is the messenger. It's not a failure, it's your soul hitting the emergency brake, screaming, "These boundaries aren't working." It is precisely in that space of ruin that something new can be born. When the pain strips away your masks, you can finally see who you really are. And at that point, suffering becomes sacred, because it brings you face to face with the only thing that can set you free, yourself. Most people give up here, but not you. If you've made it this far, you are ready to cross. Now that you are here, let's be clear. Nothing will shield you from external suffering if you remain unconscious of what's happening inside. The words will still hurt, the rejections will still sting, until you awaken. And awakening is not magic. It's a daily choice to look within, even when it hurts. It is taking responsibility for what you feel without blaming the world. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists." You've spent your whole life resisting your sensitivity, fighting the overwhelm, trying to be strong. And it just persists. True emotional immunity isn't hardness, it's clarity. It is not armor, it's awareness. When you finally understand your triggers, your patterns, and your wounds, the actions of others lose their power. You still feel, you are an empath after all, but you don't drown. You still suffer, but you do not lose yourself. And that changes everything.
What shields you isn't protecting yourself from life, it's diving into it. Those who live on the surface get hurt by every wave. Those who dive deep know there is silence and power down below. And when you start to live from that place of integrated, conscious awareness, the world can try to knock you down, but it just cannot find a place to hit you anymore. If this journey made sense to you, write in the comments, "I choose awareness." Real transformation only begins when you don't stop at the first step.